All right, so someone reached out wanting to know more about a career in social services. Specifically, they want to know about being a social services manager. And wow, they weren't messing around. They sent over this RoleCatcher guide.
No.
And this thing is in depth.
It's seriously impressive.
It is. It's not like just some basic overview. This gets into like the nitty-gritty of what it takes to actually do this job well.
Yeah, people think, oh, social work, you just got to have a big heart.
Right.
And yeah, that helps. But this guide, it's showing you need way more than that.
You need serious skill.
You need to be able to think strategically. You have to really know policy inside and out.
Oh, tell me about it.
Even stuff like marketing, fundraising, I wouldn't have thought about that.
Right.
But they make it clear you got to secure resources. You got to think outside the box if you want to actually make an impact.
It's like you're not just managing cases, you're managing whole systems.
Exactly.
And one thing that really stood out to me was how much they emphasize legislation.
Oh, for sure.
And ethical codes. Like, you have to know this stuff cold.
Don't think about it. You're working with people who are really relying on you. They're vulnerable. They need help navigating all this complicated stuff.
Right.
And you have to be their advocate. Like they gave this example in here. It was about a social worker who, because they knew the ins and outs of some new legislation,
Yeah.
they were able to use that to get housing for a family that was about to be evicted.
Wow.
That's the kind of real-world difference this knowledge can make.
So that's what I mean about this guide. It's like they're saying, look, yeah, you're an advocate, but you gotta be a strategist too.
You got to be both.
You're not just like connecting people to resources that are just there.
Yeah.
You might have to fight for those resources to exist in the first place.
Absolutely.
And that takes collaborating.
Oh, big time. And the guide really stresses, you are not working in a silo. You've got to be in touch with lawyers, educators, healthcare workers.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Even people in criminal justice sometimes.
What?
You're building these bridges, trying to get everyone on the same page. It's about understanding all these different perspectives to create a good support system for your clients.
Oh, and you know what else got me? Those sample interview questions they included.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about intense.
Intense.
Like, how would you measure if your programs are actually working? Or how do you stay updated on the latest trends? Like, they're not just looking for someone who can follow the rules.
No, they want someone at the forefront.
They want someone who's, like, on top of it, constantly learning.
Constantly adapting, yeah.
Exactly.
Which makes sense because this field, it is always changing.
Always.
New research coming out, policy shifting, technology. You can't just rest on what you learned at school. You got to be a lifelong learner in this job.
So, big picture. This RoleCatcher guide, it's basically giving us the roadmap for this whole career path.
It really has.
You start as a social services assistant, then you move up to coordinator, team leader, and finally you reach the top. Social services manager.
A big leap.
So let's break it down, starting with that entry-level social services assistant position.
Okay, so this is where you're really getting your hands dirty. You're doing a lot of direct work with clients.
Right. You're in the trenches.
Really learning how everything works.
It's like they said in that example profile. You've maybe got a bachelor's in social work, you're certified in first aid and CPR, all that.
Got to have your basics.
You're eager, you want to help, but you're also ready to put in the work.
You got to...
There's no job too small.
Exactly. Organized, empathetic, ready to learn. That's what you need at this stage. It's all about soaking up knowledge and building those core social work skills.
And I think it's important to remember, even though it's entry level, you're still making a huge difference in people's lives.
Huge.
Because you might be the first person they talk to, someone in crisis. Your ability to listen, to just be there for them.
Have empathy.
Yes. And to connect them to the resources they need, it can change everything for them.
Absolutely. Building trust is so important. Understanding each person's situation because everybody's different.
Everyone's different.
And then advocating for their needs within this whole big system. That's what it's about at that level.
Now, as you get more experience, you move up to that social services coordinator role, and that's where you start taking on more responsibility.
Right. The guide was very clear. You're not just assisting anymore at that point.
Right.
You're coordinating services, you're managing case files, and you got to make sure everything you're doing is by the book. Totally legal.
So that means you got to really know the system.
Inside and out.
Like, it's not enough to have a big heart at that point.
It's not enough.
You need to be sharp.
Absolutely.
You need to know how to navigate all those regulations.
Because if you don't...
You can't help anyone.
Exactly.
And you're still working with clients, but now you might also be supervising other staff.
Yeah, you might have some social services assistants working under you.
Right? Delegating tasks, providing guidance, all of that.
Exactly. It's a different kind of responsibility.
It's like they said in the example, you've probably got your master's in social work at this level, maybe some extra certifications in things like mental health or crisis intervention.
They're building up their expertise.
Yeah, you've got a solid base of knowledge and experience at this point, and you're ready to start leading.
Precisely. And you've honed your communication, your problem solving, all that. Because now you're passionate about not just helping individuals, but about making the whole system better.
And that's where the next step comes in, right? The social services team leader.
Now we're talking real leadership. This is where you're not just dealing with individual cases, but like you're responsible for people and resources.
Yeah, this is the big picture stuff.
The guide was very clear about that. You're overseeing a whole team.
Wow.
Coordinators, assistants,
Yeah.
the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And you're making sure everyone's doing their job right, the programs are actually effective. You even get involved in training new staff.
So you're not just responsible for your own caseload anymore.
Yep.
You're responsible for everything your whole team does.
It's a lot. And the guide doesn't sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
It can be really tough.
I bet.
But at the same time, they highlight how rewarding it can be.
Okay, how so?
Because at this level, you can actually start to shape things. Like you could be involved in developing policies.
Really?
Yeah, even at a national level.
Wow.
So you're not just working within the system, you're trying to make the system better for everyone.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Right. And that's where you really need to be able to think strategically.
Connect the dots.
Exactly. You can see how everything fits together, all the different parts of the system.
And then figure out how to make it all work better.
That's the gist of it. Like they gave this example in the guide.
Yeah.
It was about this team leader. They noticed that a lot of their clients were having trouble just getting to appointments.
Transportation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which seems so basic, but it's a huge problem. So instead of just trying to solve it case by case,
Right.
they actually worked with the local transportation services and even advocated for changes within their own organization to try to fix things systemically.
That's thinking big picture.
That's the kind of impact you can have as a team leader.
Yeah.
And their sample profile for this role?
Yeah.
Spot on. They described someone with a doctorate in social work.
Years of experience, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a real passion for making those big picture changes we were just talking about.
Someone who's not afraid to fight for what's right.
Exactly. Not just
Yeah.
managing tasks, but leading a team, inspiring them. And that's another thing the guide emphasizes.
What's that?
You need to be able to build a team, get everyone on board with the
It's
vision.
because you can't do it alone.
Exactly. But they're also honest about the challenges that come with this kind of role. You've got limited resources, bureaucracy, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, I bet.
And on top of that, you've got the emotional toll it can take.
Right, because this isn't just a job.
You know?
You're dealing with people's lives, with real struggles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to take care of yourself, build a supportive team. That's something else they emphasize in the guide.
It's true. You got to take care of yourself if you want to take care of others. And they made a really good point about cultural sensitivity.
Oh, huge.
Like, you need to be aware of your own biases, understand all the different challenges people face.
Because not everyone's the same.
Exactly. You have to tailor your approach for each person, for each community. It's not enough to just mean well.
No, you got to put in the work, educate yourself.
Be an ally.
Exactly. Because you're advocating for everyone.
Yeah.
And that means building relationships. Not just with your clients, but with other people in the field, too.
Yeah, networking.
Yeah, like we were saying before, social workers collaborate with so many different people, lawyers, educators, everyone.
Creating that web of support.
That's what it's all about. It's like you're building a safety net, not just for your clients, but for your whole team.
Because, let's face it, this work is tough. You need that support system to deal with the challenges and also to celebrate the wins when you have them.
Exactly. Speaking of wins, let's talk about that top rung on the ladder, the social services manager,
The big boss.
the one calling the shots. This is what all that experience, all that hard work has led up to.
This is the dream job for a lot of people going into this field, I bet.
It is.
But I like that this guide, they don't pretend it's easy.
No, they don't.
They make it clear this isn't about just being in charge.
It's so much more than that.
What else is involved?
You got to be a leader. You got to plan strategically. You have to make sure the entire organization is on the same page. Oh, and the budgets.
Oh, yeah, I bet there are budgets.
Big budgets. It's a whole other level.
And you got to be good with money, too, huh?
You got to know how to manage it, how to fight for more when you need it. And you can't just throw money at problems. You got to know how to use those resources effectively.
It sounds intense.
It is. And those interview questions they showed.
The ones we talked about before.
Yeah, they're even tougher at this level. How do you measure success? How do you make sure you're following all the rules? They were looking for someone who can handle the pressure
Make tough calls.
and lead with their head and their heart. Like the guide had this one example I thought was really powerful.
What was it about?
This social services manager, they had to make a really difficult choice about funding. They had two programs, both of them really important.
But not enough money to go around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they had to look at the data, talk to their team.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is. But they had to make a decision, even though it meant saying no to one group.
Did they make the right call?
Well, they made the choice that they thought would help the most people in the long run. But that's the thing. You have to be able to live with those tough decisions.
I imagine it takes a lot of courage.
It does. But like you said, it's a dream job for a lot of people.
Because you can really make a difference.
Exactly. Imagine being able to shape how an entire organization provides social services.
That's amazing.
Right. And then seeing how your work helps people, how it makes their lives better.
That's got to feel good.
It's incredibly rewarding. And this RoleCatcher guide, it gave us a really good look at what that journey to becoming a social services manager actually looks like. It really is a journey when you think about it. And this RoleCatcher guide, it lays it all out, not just where you might end up,
Right.
but what you need to learn along the way.
What you need to know to even get started.
Exactly. They had a whole section on education and training, and honestly, it was really eye-opening.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, obviously getting your social work license is important,
Makes sense.
but they were also talking about leadership certifications, which, I mean, if you're going to be a manager.
You got to know how to lead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they even mentioned stuff like first aid and CPR training,
Oh, interesting.
which you might not think about that as being part of being a manager.
Right.
But when you're working with vulnerable populations.
Anything could happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you got to be ready for anything in this job.
It's really all about being prepared.
And always learning.
Because, like we've been saying, this field is constantly changing.
Always.
There's always something new to learn.
Exactly. And the guide even encourages people to, think beyond just the usual stuff.
Not just getting another degree.
Right. Like attending conferences, presenting at seminars, maybe even publishing articles.
Wow. So you could become like a thought leader in the field.
Exactly. Sharing what you know with other people.
That's how the field moves forward.
That's how it grows.
Yeah.
And you're not just building a career for yourself at that point.
You're building it for everyone.
Exactly. You're part of something bigger.
So for anyone listening who's thinking, hey, this sounds like me, I want to do this.
Yeah.
I think this RoleCatcher guide makes it clear.
What's that?
This isn't just a job, it's a calling.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's no doubt about that. But if you're passionate about helping people, about making the world a better place.
Or just more equitable.
Exactly. Then this could be the career for you.
Yeah. Because when it comes down to it, it's all about making a difference.
That's what it's all about. And this guide, it really highlighted how important it is to bring your whole self to this work.
Yeah, like we were saying before, you need that strategic mind. You got to be able to think critically.
You're doing the system.
But you also need to be compassionate.
You got to care about the people you're serving.
And that brings us back to where we started.
Full circle.
This whole idea of this career being the perfect blend of head and heart.
You need both to be successful.
And, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We talked about the different roles, the challenges, the rewards, all of it.
But the most important thing to remember.
What's that?
Is that this is just a starting point. This guide gives you the roadmap.
The framework.
Exactly. But now it's up to you to take that and figure out what it means for you.
Your own personal journey.
Exactly. What are you good at? What are you passionate about?
What gets you fired up in the morning?
Because that's what's going to keep you going when things get tough.
Because believe me, they will get tough.
Yeah, you will.
But that passion, that drive.
That's what makes it all worthwhile.
So as you move forward, keep asking yourself,
What's that?
how can I use my skills, my passions,
They're your unique talents.
to make a real difference in this field?
Because even small actions,
They can have a big impact.
they really can. You can change the world one person, one family at a time.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.